Hello, hello. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy you came. Welcome. How is your body feeling? How is your heart? Your precious, perfect, beautiful heart. How is your mind? Where's your head at today? And how is the mind, heart, body connection? I hope that it is well, free and clear. I hope that you are happy, joyous, and free. And I hope that if for any reason you are not feeling happy, joyous, and free, that together we will find a way to change that. So this week I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to let you know who I am. Realize that I've made a small handful of these videos and put them out into the world, and that I have not once really introduced myself. Some of you have followed me over from other platforms, Instagram and my newsletter. Some of you know me in real life, but many of you don't know anything about me. You just know that there's this person that shows up on this app, on this channel every week and just starts talking shit about whatever it is we're talking about. And so this week I wanted to begin little by slowly the introduction of our relationship. Didn't want to take a whole lot of time, but just to let you know, really, if for no other reason, this week's introduction is to encourage really anybody whose path is not linear, because guess what? Nothing is linear. And if that has made you feel embarrassed or ashamed or uncertain or doubtful, don't let it. That I know that that's easier said than done, but rather not to tell you how to feel about your journey, but rather just to encourage you to keep going. You know, some of us had to come by these seats in our lives the hard way because there's been a whole lot of other shit to dig ourselves out from under, and that has been the case for me. So this week I wanted to introduce myself, and I wanted to talk about the non-linear journey of the witch, of the tarot reader, of the human being, the individual in general. If you haven't already, please make sure that you've subscribed to my channel. Make sure that you've got your notifications turned on to get these videos each week. Please like this video, and then you know what to do. Share it far and wide. A brief introduction into who I am, and maybe part of which informs the way that I work, the way that I operate. A lot of you know me on the internet as Crow Mother. My name is Liza, but I'm not obviously Crow Mother, but rather I am the steward for the Kachina, the Crow Mother Kachina. I am an indigenous woman of also mixed heritage. The details and the history and the lineage of which that I am continuing to suss out the more that I figure out who the hell my family has been. I have nothing but chasms in my family of origin, and while that may be okay for now, it has certainly provided me with a lot of challenges to figure out who I am, who I'm supposed to be, where do I belong, what do I do with all of these feelings and all of these things that I hear and all of these feelings. Did I say feelings already? I have a lot of feelings. I would say that I come by this seat, this position in front of this little camera talking to you. I come by it quite honestly. I am a hard-won individual of one that relishes my peace, one that relishes hard-won serenity. These are things that I have not always had: peace of mind, serenity, safety. Without getting into any detail today, because I don't want to provide triggers or buttons for people in similar or same positions as me, but for today I will tell you that my journey as a witch, as a psychic, as a seer, as an empath, as an intuitive, quite frankly, as someone who works with almost all of the clairs, my relationship in comfort with this work and as my role as just being what I am has not been, I said, linear. And it has not come easy, mainly because of my own traumatic brain cycles. So Suffice to say that I am an adult person who is constantly working against, through, and beyond some pretty significant childhood and adolescent trauma. I am someone who lives with complex PTSD as a result of childhood and adolescent trauma, and who, at this point in my life, I'm now in my 40s, I am actively working every single week seeking professional help to continue to excavate my way out of these traumatic cycles. So how does that inform my life? You know, I really have been resistant to admit this, but it has informed just about everything in my life. You know, the foundations that are set for us as children shape everything, right? And the foundations that were set for me as a child and as an adolescent human were those of fear and doubt and insecurity, of abuse, of neglect. The foundations were of dishonesty and doubt, of fear and violence and dysfunction. And so I don't want to provide triggers for anybody. So I will leave those statements there without going into further detail. But that said, growing up in supreme dysfunction and neglect and abuse, while also happening to be a child and adolescent, and now a young adult, and now an adult, as someone who happened to be empathic, intuitive, psychic, someone who happens to work with all of the clairs. Because I did not learn to trust myself as a child. I did not learn to trust myself as an adolescent human. I did not learn to trust those around me. I was not shown or proven that my body was a safe place to be, and also that the environments in which I lived, I was not shown that those were safe places to be. And so it was not an immediate, by far, was not an immediate thing to feel trust in what my gut instincts were saying. It was not an immediate thing for me to feel that I could rely on or believe the voices, the messages that I heard and still hear in what I call my spiritual Bluetooth. I just thought that I was a too sensitive kid that was always wrapped up in the realm of their imagination and always at a state of pretend play, talking to trees and talking to animals and feeling or hearing things that weren't real. My relationship with the realm of the spirit began when I was a child. You know, I was guided to safe passages. I was guided to safer places, literally guided to safer places of care by whispers in my ear and in my heart telling me, you should walk up the road and go knock on this person's door. They'll open it for you and let you spend the night. That happened on a regular basis, and these weren't things that I thought anything of. I was very comfortable with and familiar with voices and seeing things out of the corner of my eye and seeing things right in front of me as a child. And the older I got, the more I learned to keep those things quiet, because I was constantly chastised or reprimanded for being too sensitive and for being too scatterbrained and too unfocused on tasks at hand that, in my opinion then and now, really didn't mean anything to me. I was not afforded the opportunity to have people check in, to really pick my brain about that stuff. And I think that a lot of children and adolescent humans are also not afforded that opportunity. And so suffice to say, Because also an important detail is that I am now a sober alcoholic. I am in recovery. I've been in recovery now for almost 24 years. I am a very grateful and happy member of a 12-step program that I'll just keep anonymous. And so what does that have to do with my journey, my very non-linear journey as a working witch, as a person whose life revolves around spirit and spirit work? It has everything to do with that. And maybe I'll save that for another time. But I have been sober, and fully present for this life, and all of the messages, the feelings, the happenings around me, fully present for all of that for almost 24 years now. It took a very, very long time to begin to even first see that there was serious therapy and psychological excavation that had to take place for me before I could begin to feel that maybe there's nothing wrong with me after all, in terms of what my heart felt, what my body would feel, the sensations I pick up on. I bought my first tarot deck. Yeah, you can buy them yourself. I bought my first tarot deck, I think 21, maybe almost 22 years ago now. I was given a Ouija board for Easter by my maternal grandmother when I was probably 7 years old. I had regular communication with spirits as a child, as an adolescent, as a preteen and a teen, but I was too wrapped up in addiction and dysfunction in the homes that I would bounce in and out of. I was too wrapped up in addiction and dysfunction in group homes and foster homes that I lived in for a while to really not even begin to craft and hone these abilities in myself, but even to just receive it, hear it, and honor it. This has not been, again, I'll use the word linear. I got sober, and almost immediately I began to seek out the realm of spirit from some sort of power greater than myself. And the Judeo-Christian relationship was one that I explored. I was a theology major when I was in my late teens and very early 20s. I knew that the God concept, I knew that the realm of spirit and spirituality was something that I virtually had no choice but to make a part of my life. And I thought that studying theology was it for me. I thought that bringing theology into journalism was going to be it for me. And around that same time, 24 years ago, I began to be formally introduced to the realm of the occult and occult practices, of neo-pagan practices. An interesting note about me is that I always found these things as a child and as an adolescent. When I was a kid, I was given an opportunity to pick out what school I went to in the very first year of magnet programs here in the United States. And I chose a classical Greek studies school because I was obsessed with Greek mythology, and I was obsessed with gods and goddesses. I was obsessed with the story of Isis and Osiris, and I couldn't tell you why. I just thought about it all the time, and as a kid would find books at the library and try to learn everything I could, but I didn't take that seriously because I didn't know I could. And so fast forwarding it to about 24 years ago, being reintroduced or introduced formally to the realm of the occult and occult practices and neo-pagan practices, and even some Celtic stuff that didn't really turn out to be my thing. Somewhere in there, I bought my first tarot deck, and I began to learn, and I began to be taught by some friends, and then I began to read very casually for people. But I really, because of all of the stuff that I was under the weight of, I thought, who do I think I am that I could ever read for other people, let alone make it my work? You know, who do I think I am that I could ever really make God or godlike energies or spirit, or quite frankly anything that I love, who do I think I am that I could ever make what I love my whole life's work? I think, intrinsically feel that I was deserving of that. That's okay. In hindsight, I know that that's okay. I just thought that that would be probably for everybody else, everybody that was lifelong learned or studied, but it couldn't quite possibly be for me. I moved from Judeo-Christian studied and dipping my toes into practice to I found Buddhism probably over 20 years ago, and that made a lot of sense to me, and began to study, began to practice. I still try to study and practice all the time. I have been baptized and converted a handful of times into formal religions because religion or God or spirituality was everything I thought about all the time. Still didn't know why. Fast forward even more. I found through my study and practice of Buddhism, I found a company that I began to work for as a retail business manager, that really espoused values and an ethos that were intrinsic to ecology and ecological repair. And as I worked for them, I realized that wait a minute, I'm doing this whole thing wrong, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to become a massage therapist. I met who is now my husband a decade ago and converted to Judaism before we were married. P.S. Here's a fun fact. Some people like to believe that I converted only to be able to marry my husband. That's not true. It was one of my collections of religions that I was dead set on finding my place. I just wanted to find my place, but I still didn't believe that this work, that this life, this way of being could be for me. I thought that I would never be qualified for that, when in truth I was born qualified. I was born this way. Cue the sound, and cue my neighbors working on their truck next door, so please enjoy those sounds also. I have always been a profoundly powerful witch. I have not always known that. I have not always been in belief of that. As you can see, I've found my stepping stones along the way, but it wasn't until Spirit showed me through insistence, year after year after year, insistence of faith and belief in me, and through acts of love and destruction, took everything out of my path that stood in the way of me and falling headfirst into this work. I stopped being a massage therapist to give my hands a break, and I went back to becoming a retail business manager, all still while reading tarot for people on the side, Somewhere along the way, I became attuned to different levels of Reiki, and then I became a Reiki master teacher, but I was still only giving it side level energy because who do I think I am? Once again, to really hem it all up to the lovely cacophony of sounds of birds and teenage boy trucks next door. I've talked at length individually with some of you about messages of the cards and how messages or warnings will be soft and gentle and leading, and then they'll be more bold, and then there'll be more bold, and then there'll be more bold, until everything that stands in between you and the highest unfolding of you and your heart's desire is destroyed. And that is what happened to me. Everything that I kept placing in front of this heart's desire, and do you know what my heart's desire is or was? It's this. It's this, being here with you in my own space. It is spending each day in some sort of act of service to the realm of the spirit, to my community. My heart's desire my whole life was to heal and to be healed. My heart's desire my whole life was to be a bridge and conduit between that which I was, sort of plugged into loosely, and to you, my community. Things kept being pulled out from in front of me until finally, I'm not sure how many years it's been now, finally, one day, I what felt exhausted and wounded on some very 10 of swords, 10 of wands energy, held up a battered white flag and said, okay, enough. And has it been easy as pie since I made that decision? No, of course not. There has been and will continue to be immense learning curves and immense dips down into doubt and fear and imposter syndrome, way more or less now. That I don't think that rarely happens, or I don't think that often happens these days. I sit in front of you in full relation with my heart's desire, having worked very hard to do everything but this. For lots and lots of reasons, I should not be here, through circumstances that I placed myself in, through circumstances that were out of my control, and through my own hand. I should not be here with you, but yet here I am. Does this make me any less powerful, any less of a potent conduit? Does this make me any less of a powerful or potent bridge between the realm of the spirit and you? Absolutely, positively fucking not. And I want you to hear that loud and clear. It takes what it takes. Not everybody is so situated or is so lucky to have had such a linear journey in education. Some of us come by this hard won. And I want you to know that if that is your experience, good for you. Your experience in relation with your heart's desire will be that much more rich, beautiful, and textured because of that. I sit in gratitude often, a profound gratitude for my life and the opportunity to do the work that I love every single day. I do this all the time. This is it for me. This is it. This is what I'm here on this planet to do. And I am really busy. So for that, thank you. But also, thank the universe for believing in me, and thank the realm of the spirit for destroying everything that I tried to put in front of me and you. And also, I want to thank myself for never, never, never giving up. I want to remember to say that out loud. And so that is the beginnings of my story. I will talk more about some of the lighter details and some of the interesting minutiae as it informs my work and who I am in relation to it all. Now you know that it hasn't been a one-shot deal, and that is okay. And if that is in any way your experience, that is more than okay too. You don't have to wait as long as I did. And hopefully you're already doing it. And if it takes you as long as you want it to take you, great. I'm going to say it in affirmation again. I have always been a profoundly powerful witch, but I have not always known that or believed that. And that very well may likely be your experience also. I would wager that you are profoundly powerful, waves and waves and waves of which have not even begun to dawn on you. And I emphatically implore you, please keep going. Thank you for sitting with me and allowing me to avail myself to you. Again, please subscribe to this channel. Make sure you got those notifications on to get these videos every week. Like this video and share it. Share it far and wide if you think it would be of benefit to anybody. See you next week.